Have you ever stood on the threshold of a big decision, feeling both hope and a vague sense of anxiety? Perhaps you or your loved ones are currently considering a move to a nursing home. Oh, how well I remember that feeling. They painted such rosy pictures for me. Care, companionship, security. It sounded so right, so logical, especially when I felt my strength waning and maintaining my own home becoming increasingly difficult. It seemed like the only right step, a salvation from loneliness and the household chores that had become overwhelming. But let me tell you something they don't write about in glossy brochures, something I myself bitterly regret now, finding myself here, inside this system. Behind the promises of comfort lie some rather harsh truths that aren't usually spoken aloud. I want to share my experience, my regrets, so that you can make a well-informed, your own decision without repeating my mistakes. These aren't horror stories, no. This is an honest account of 8 points that became bitter discoveries for me about things that turned my expected peace into a source of quiet despair. I promise, after our conversation, you will have a much clearer picture of what to truly expect, and perhaps you will see alternatives that I, unfortunately, didn't consider in time. These truths are simple, but knowing them is invaluable. Please, stay with me until the end, because an informed choice is your strength and your right to a dignified life, on your terms, not on terms imposed upon you. The first harsh truth I learned. Firsthand, the illusion of community and real loneliness. You know, the first thing they promised me was an escape from loneliness. You'll be among people, new acquaintances, conversation, shared evenings. How tempting it sounded. My home felt empty after my husband, wife, loved one passed away. My children lived their own lives, and I so hoped to find kindred spirits here, to revive that warm atmosphere of friendly gatherings we used to have. I've always been a sociable person, briefly mention past profession or hobby related to people. At first I tried. I smiled at everyone in the dining room, attempted to strike up conversations in the lounge, but very soon I realized being surrounded by people doesn't mean not being lonely. People here are very different, each with their own ailments, their own grievances, many withdrawn into themselves. I saw them, sitting silently, staring into space. Group activities, often they are so formal, soulless, just for show. I would sit at a table with 3 other people, and over the entire meal, we'd barely exchange a dozen words. In my empty house, I felt lonely, yes. But here, amidst this crowd, I felt truly invisible, unnecessary. You see, community isn't just physical presence. It's shared interests, emotional closeness, the chance to talk about something personal, intimate. And here, where everyone has their own medication schedule and their own, often heavy, thoughts, finding that is incredibly difficult. It's like being put on a crowded bus. People are nearby, shoulder to shoulder, but everyone is going about their own business, and there's no deep connection, nor can there be. Instead of the expected warm company, I received only superficial contact and a feeling of isolation amidst the crowd. Practical takeaway for you. Don't blindly believe promises of community. Find out what real opportunities exist for connecting over shared interests. How is leisure actually organized? Are there clubs, groups? Is residents' own initiative encouraged? If there's any chance at all, talk to those already living there, without the administration present. My conclusion, paid for with regret. Look not just for neighbors, but for an environment where there's a real chance to find friends and maintain emotional warmth, not just pass the days in silence. The second harsh truth, the loss of real autonomy, even in the simplest things. They told me, you'll maintain your independence, live your life, and we'll take care of the chores. But what did they mean by independence? The freedom to walk to the dining room or watch TV in the lounge? What about those simple, but so damn important daily rituals that made up my unique life? All my life, I mention a personal habit, e.g., got up at dawn, drank coffee by the window, reading the paper, loved to sit with my knitting under the lamp in the evening, had a habit of napping after lunch in my favorite armchair. They promised I could continue living at my own pace. Fat chance. Reality turned out very different. Breakfast, strictly at 8 a.m., not a minute later. Nurses' rounds, at 9 a.m. Walks, on schedule, whether you feel like it or not. Quiet hour, mandatory for everyone, even if you're not sleepy. Mention something specific, e.g., favorite books I wanted to arrange on a shelf, small set of tools for my hobby, collection of something, had to be left at home, not allowed by the rules. I feel like I'm in barracks or a boarding school, honestly. Before, I decided when to drink coffee, when to nap, when to step outside for fresh air. Here, my day is scheduled minute by strangers. I haven't just lost freedom of movement. I've lost myself, my personal rhythm of life that I built over decades. Understand, autonomy isn't just about being able to go outside. It's the right to decide when and what to eat. Within reason, of course, when to go to bed, when to receive guests, if they're even allowed at a convenient time for you, how to fill your day. Under a rigid schedule, which might be necessary for managing many people, this personal autonomy simply evaporates. It's like switching from your cozy car, where you're your own boss, to public transport that runs strictly on a route and schedule. You're still moving, but you're no longer at the wheel, and it's terribly depressing. Practical takeaway for you. Ask in great detail about the daily routine. Can you eat in your room? When? Is there any flexibility in the schedule? Can you opt out of group activities if you don't feel like it? How strict are the house rules? Don't hesitate to ask about the little things. My conclusion: your life is your melody, even if played on only a few remaining strings. Make sure they'll let you play it at your own tempo, and not force you to march to a common alien drumbeat. The third harsh truth: unpredictable quality of care and that endless staff turnover. Of course, one of the main arguments that convinced me too was the promise of round-the-clock care and medical supervision. They showed me smiling nurses, clean corridors, talked about professionalism. And much of that is true, but only partially. The devil, as always, is in the details you don't see at first. I have mentioned your care need, e.g., mobility issues, need for blood sugar monitoring, assistance with hygiene, and I needed help with daily tasks. When I was just looking, they showed me a perfect picture, assured me of an individualized approach. But after moving in, I faced reality. The staff constantly changes. Today one caregiver, tomorrow another, the day after, a third. Many of them are clearly overworked, always rushing. They simply don't physically have the time to show genuine involvement or compassion. There were times I had to wait a long time for help, just to get to the toilet or get a glass of water. I felt less like a person being helped and more like an object of care, another task on a long to-do list. In these indicate time frame months, years, I've seen so many different faces that I've stopped trying to remember names. Some were kind, but so exhausted you just felt sorry for them. Others were openly indifferent, doing their jobs mechanically. What kind of individual approach can there be when one person helps you today, and tomorrow it's someone completely different who knows nothing about you, your habits, or what you need right now? The problem, as I now understand, is that this field often suffers from low pay and high staff turnover. This inevitably affects the quality of care, which can vary greatly from day to day, from shift to shift. The promised attention and care often turn into the mere formal execution of duties. It's like ordering a dish from a beautiful menu picture and getting something edible, sure, but cooked without soul, hastily. Practical takeaway for you: try to find out about staff turnover at the specific facility. Don't be afraid to ask directly. What is the staff to resident ratio? Do they have permanent caregivers assigned to specific people? Try talking not only to the administration, they'll tell you a fairy tale, but also to the junior medical staff if possible, to the residents themselves, or their relatives who visit. My conclusion: look not for shiny floors and fancy words, but for sincere care in the eyes of the staff and stability within the team. That's far more important. The fourth harsh truth: the disappearance of personal space and much desired quiet. You'll have your own room, your own cozy corner, they assured me. But what is your own room here? Often, it's a very small space, and sometimes shared with a roommate you didn't choose. Even if the room is private, like mine, the concept of personal space here is very relative. I am by nature an introvert, someone who values quiet. I always loved sitting quietly with a book, or just thinking in solitude. Moving here, I chose a private room precisely hoping to preserve this possibility of seclusion. But I quickly realized that quiet here is an unaffordable luxury. The doors are thin as cardboard. From the hallway, You constantly hear conversations, footsteps, staff call buttons, ringing phones, the sound of a TV from the next room. Staff can enter the room for cleaning or procedures at any moment, often with just a perfunctory knock, or sometimes without knocking at all. Common areas, the dining room, the lounge, are almost always noisy, a constant hum. I miss the quiet so much, the ability to simply be alone, for no one to enter, speak, or make noise behind the wall. Here, I'm constantly on display, constantly amidst some kind of sound. My room is just a place to sleep, not my home, not my fortress where I could take refuge. You see, we live for decades in our own homes, where we control the noise level, where we have our favorite corners for solitude. In a communal living situation, this is practically impossible. It's like moving from a detached house into a large communal apartment. You might have your own room, but communal life constantly intrudes on your space, whether you like it or not. Practical takeaway for you. Be sure to visit the facility at different times of the day to assess the real noise level. Find out the exact rules regarding staff entering rooms. Is there an option to choose a room in a quieter wing? Are there any quiet zones for relaxation outside the rooms? How much is the right to privacy, to do not disturb, respected here? My conclusion: if quiet and the ability to be alone with yourself are as important to you as they are to me, be 100% sure that you can find them in your new home, otherwise it will be torture. The fifth harsh truth: the financial trap I never suspected. At first glance, the cost of living seemed clear to me. Here's the monthly fee for the room, food, and basic care. The amount wasn't small, but I was prepared to pay for the promised peace and comfort, thinking my savings and pension would suffice. I calculated everything carefully, or so I thought. But soon the surprises began. An additional charge for help with taking medication. Apparently, that wasn't included in basic care. An extra payment for changing diapers, more often than allowed by their internal standard. A separate bill for laundry services for my personal items, although they promised full board. And then, the annual increase in the basic fee, which was written somewhere in the contract in such fine print that I didn't even notice. I feel cheated, cornered. My savings are melting away much faster than I planned. I'm afraid I'll soon become a burden to my children, even though I moved here precisely to avoid that. What a paradox. The fact is, the base cost often covers only the bare minimum of services. Any additional needs, which inevitably arise with age, or simply the need for a little more attention, all of this can lead to a sharp increase in expenses. Hidden fees, annual indexation, paid services they don't tell you about up front. All this turns this place into a financial black hole that risks swallowing everything I saved my whole life. It's like buying a car at an attractive price, and then discovering you have to shell out just as much again for insurance, maintenance, winter tires, and even floor mats. Practical takeaway for you: demand a full list of all paid services and their exact costs. Study the contract with a magnifying glass, especially the clauses about fee increases, termination conditions, and the list of included services. Don't take their word for it. Get everything in writing. Find out exactly what's included in the basic package and what you'll have to pay extra for. If possible, consult with a lawyer or financial advisor before signing. Don't repeat my naivety. My conclusion: financial transparency isn't a whim, it's your right and the key to your future peace of mind. Make sure you understand all potential costs, down to the last cent. The sixth harsh truth: the strain on family relationships I didn't expect. One of the reasons I decided to move was the thought of not burdening the children. It seemed easier for everyone. The kids would be reassured knowing I was looked after, and I wouldn't feel like a burden to them with their jobs and their own families. But in practice, this decision created new, unexpected problems in our relationship. Before, I loved it so much when the children and grandchildren came to my home or dacha. The noise, the laughter, our shared meals, talking late into the night. I hoped they would visit me just as often here, maybe even more often, since they wouldn't need to help me with household chores. But the visits became completely different. Strict visiting hours, not always convenient for them. The uncomfortable, institutional setting of the common lounge, where you can't talk heart to heart, where someone is constantly walking past. The grandchildren are frankly bored here. There's nothing for them to do. My children come, but I feel this tension. They're awkward. They seem unsure what to talk about. They're in a hurry. The visits have become shorter and more formal. I feel guilty that they have to serve their time, making the trip here. Before, they came to my home, to a familiar place. Now, they come to an institution. It's a completely different feeling, believe me. I see pity in their eyes, and that only makes me feel worse. We started drifting apart, and it breaks my heart. Sometimes, the move is perceived by children, even if they suggested it themselves, as a way to hand over a parent, and this subconscious guilt colors their visits. And I, even though I made the decision myself, sometimes feel abandoned, hurt. The distance, the inconvenience of visits, this formal atmosphere, all of it subtly erodes the warm family bonds that meant everything to me. It's like moving family celebrations from our cozy home to a sterile function hall. The atmosphere just isn't the same. The warmth is gone. Practical takeaway for you. Discuss very honestly with your family your expectations and theirs regarding visits. How convenient will it be for them to get there? Are there cozy places in the facility for family gatherings where you can sit quietly? How flexible are the visiting rules? Are you and they prepared for the fact that the dynamic of your relationship might change and not always for the better? My conclusion: family is the most precious thing we have at this age. Make sure this new stage of life doesn't erect an invisible but solid wall between you and your loved ones. The seventh harsh truth: the averaging of life and the painful loss of individuality. Each of us is a whole universe. We have our own habits, our little joys, our hobbies, our own lifestyle that we've built over decades. Moving here, I hoped to preserve my uniqueness, simply transferring it to new conditions. But I ended up in a system that strives to average out everyone, to fit them into one standard mold. For example, I mention your hobby or important habit. Dewey loved tending my houseplants, collected stamps all my life, loved listening to specific music or a radio station, always read a lot of specific genres. My home was a reflection of me. Mention interior detail, my embroideries on the walls, shelves with my books, my photos in frames. Here, they offered me a standard set of activities. Bingo, which I can't stand, watching endless TV series sometimes, modeling clay, like in kindergarten. They allowed me to decorate my room with a couple of photos, but no plants on the windowsill, not allowed by sanitary norms, or my paintings, crafts on the walls, can't damage the walls. They don't play my favorite music in the common lounge. The majority doesn't like it, they say. The books I ask to have brought often have nowhere to be stored. I feel like I'm being erased with an eraser, day by day. My hobbies are of no interest to anyone here. My things, which constituted my world, are left at home or in storage. I have to adapt to the common taste, the common rhythm, the common activities that don't resonate with me. I'm losing what made me me. In a large group, it's obviously hard to please everyone, so the administration chooses the simplest, most averaged option for leisure and daily life. The rules and standards, which might be convenient for management, stifle individuality. It's like forcing someone who loved choosing their own clothes their whole life to wear a uniform. And supported. The eighth harsh truth, the hardest one. The difficulty, near impossibility, of turning back. And finally, something I think about with bitterness every day. The decision to move into a nursing home turned out to be a one-way ticket for me. It seemed to me that if I didn't like it, I could always go back home or find a better place. How wrong I was. In practice, it turned out to be incredibly difficult, almost impossible. After indicate time frame, I realized I had made a terrible mistake. Life on a schedule, the lack of personal space, the superficial interaction, the feeling of uselessness. All of it was, and still is, terribly depressing. I wanted to go back home, but my apartment had already been sold, or rented out long-term, to pay the initial deposit and ongoing costs here. Finding new suitable housing and arranging home care turned out to be too difficult and expensive for my children, and for me. I simply don't have the physical or mental strength for another move, for all that organization anymore. I feel trapped, with no way out. I thought this would be a new, peaceful stage of life, but it turned out to be the final station, which you can't get off. Going back is almost impossible. I closed the door behind me myself and threw away the key. Selling property, signing this long-term contract, Deteriorating health while living here, stress and longing make you sick too, emotional exhaustion. All of this creates insurmountable obstacles to changing the decision. Furthermore, the very act of admitting my mistake and needing to ask my children for help again, explaining why I want to undo everything, that is psychologically very hard. It's like entering a maze where the way back is blocked by stones. Practical takeaway for you. Before making a final, irreversible decision, if there is even the slightest possibility, consider the option of a trial stay for a month or two. Don't rush to sell your property if you can avoid it. Discuss a detailed plan B with your family. What will you do if you absolutely don't like it? Keep contact information for home care services. Research other alternative care options in advance. My conclusion, the bitterest one. Approach this decision with extreme caution and foresight. Remember that changing it might not just be difficult, but impossible. My dear friends, I shared these 8 truths with you, my personal, hard-won experience, not to frighten you or make you abandon your plans. No, my goal is to give you food for thought, to arm you with the knowledge that I myself lacked so badly, so that your choice is truly conscious and well-considered, not based on pretty promises. You have lived a long, rich life. You know the value of real things: warmth, solitude, freedom of choice, the love of family. And you have every right for your golden years to be truly golden, filled with respect, comfort, and emotional warmth, not the quiet regret that I feel. Perhaps for some, a nursing home is indeed the best solution. But please, weigh all the pros and cons. Find out the whole truth, not just the parts they want to show you. Remember that there are other options: home care assistance, day centers, more flexible forms of supported living. Explore them, discuss them with your loved ones, and most importantly, listen to your heart, to your intuition. Your well-being, your dignity, your life are in your hands alone. Don't be afraid to ask uncomfortable questions. Don't be ashamed of your desires and needs. You deserve the very best. I truly hope that my bitter experience will help you avoid my mistakes and find the solution that brings peace and tranquility specifically to you.